everyone. We are about to begin Succah. We're on Daf Daled Amud Aleph. We'll just recap the last 3 lines on Gimel on Daled Amud Aleph. We'll learn Daled on the base today, but just a quick recap from the last 2 lines of Daled Amud Aleph. We're learning Lelui Nishmas Bracha B'Sukkah Yehuda, and so the gemorah said. Check what's inside. The gemorah says, you've got a sukkah that's less than yud, and the rules are you need to have at least 10 tvachim in your sukkah. And you dug a ditch in your sukkah. So we said in order to bring it up to the bottom of the Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom. We did this already, we're just recapping. You dig 3 in order to bring it up to 10. So im yesh misfasach kak from the wall where you dug, if there's less than 3 tvachim between where you dug and the outside wall, let's say there's a wall 9 tvachim, and now there's less than 3 between that and that. If there's more than 3, it's possible. Rashi explains there's a principle called loved. Anything that's within 3 tvachim, we consider like it's one piece. It's connected. It's one thing, right? So anything more than 3, and it's 2 walls. You've got a 9 tefach wall and a 3 tefach wall. You don't have a 10 tefach wall. You've got a 9 and a 3. But if the gap between these 2 walls is less than 3 tefach, so then we'll consider it like one big wall that's 10 tefach, and you're good. Let's turn the page. But, says the gemorah, sorry. If there's more than 3 tefach, it's possible. If these 2 small walls are less than 3 cubits apart, it's kosher. Rashi says, take a look in Rashi. First time I think we've seen this Masechta, the principle of loved, beferish, that anything that's within 3 tefach, it's like it's connected. You don't see a gap, that's called it's attached. Halacha, Moshe, Sinai, these are the rules given down from Moshe on Har Sinai. In other words, it's biblical, it's not rabbinical, it's halacha Moshe Sinai. And we look, how do you look at it now? You look at it like the ditch reaches all the way to the wall. Okay, loved Vash is a sniff, it's like a part of. A pustitz. I don't know what that means, balaz. Dova shamrichin, I say, are they sniffing? Something you extend it through adding sections. Kedei lisnev chak shach kak. Okay, I don't know what exactly it means, but loved means it's an extension. An extension. So it says the gemorah. So the gemorah asks, why is it when we had this wall? If you remember the last gemorah spoke about, you have a house, and you cut a big hole in the middle of the house. So if your schach to the walls is less than 4 amas, you're good. 4 feet, not 4 tefach, 4 feet. If it's more than 4 feet away, then it's possible. So ma'ishna also don't mean the pachas 4 amas is kosher, where the wall is 3.5 feet away, it's kosher. But here, even if it's 3 tefach is less than 1 foot. 1 foot is about 3 tefach. You've only got 1 foot for it to be kosher. So why there's 4 foot good, and here 1 foot's bad. That's a kasha. Mashna also don't mean the pachas 4 amas. So mashna hacha the amas pachas b'sheisha tfachim. So there's a very big difference between these 2 sherm. It's 4 times as much, right? 4 amas or versus less than 1 amma. So what's the difference between these 2 principles? They're both trying to, the kasha is l'chayra, in both cases, you've got a wall, we're trying to make that wall part of your sukkah. So if you've got a schach, and that wall is very far away, 20 feet high wall, and we said, you look at the ceiling like it's part of the wall, and now, even if it's 4 feet away, it's good. But if you dig, and then it's only one foot away, it's possible. What's the difference? So Gemara says, okay, Hasam, the Isla Daifa, and there with this super high wall, you've got this 20-foot high wall. Isla Daifa, you've got a wall. So pachas marba amas sagi. So if it's less, as long as it's within 4 feet, it's one rishus. It's good. You count that wall. Hacha here, the lishavi daifin. Here we're trying to make it a wall. Here you don't have a wall. Here you have something that's 7 foot. You have something a meter high. You have something as opposed to 10 tefachim high. It's 6 tefach. It's 60 centimeters. That's a stump. That's not a wall. Here you're trying to make it a wall. So to make it a wall, you need to have loved. You got to use the principle of loved within 3 tefach. In other words, there you have a wall there. It's a possible wall. We're trying to kosher the wall, but there's a wall. There's a clear 20-meter high wall. It's a wall. Now we can extend that wall. But here you don't have a wall. Here you've got a stump and another stump. Therefore, it's got to be close together. That's not called a wall if you have a couple of little stools. It's not a wall. Here you're trying to make the wall. Here you're trying to actually give it the din of a wall. So it's got to be within 3 tvachim. If it's not within 3 tvachim, you can't make it a wall. Okay. Rashi spells it out. If you didn't trust my pshat in the gemorah, Rashi says, Hacha, pachas miyud, less than 10 tvachim, ein shein doifin olav. It doesn't have the name of a wall. If you have a little thing that's 60 centimeters high, that's not called a wall. No one says, oh, jump over that wall. It's a stump. It's something. I know it. It's not a wall. All right. But everyone agrees that something 30-foot high wall, that's a wall, right? Says the gemorah, new case. This sukkah is above 20 feet high, right? Amud. And now you build inside the sukkah an amud. Amud means platform. Till now we spoke about itzvah. The Achronim asked, why didn't you talk about itzvah? What's the difference there? We spoke about itzvah. So itzvah is like a little platform, but short, stool. You raise the floor. An amud is a pillar. You built yourself this huge pillar inside the sukkah, but it's a nice wide pillar, right? Roman pillars, 7 tefach wide, a nice big thing. You built that inside of your sukkah. So you've got this sukkah. And you built this amud. You built this pillar that's more than 10 tefach high. This pillar, this amud has to be at least hechsher sukkah, which we said is 7 tefach by 7 tefach. Right? So it's the beam, this amud is 70 by 70 centimeters. Tefach's roughly 10 centimeters. So what's it then? Is that enough to now bring the schach from above 20 to below 20? That was the problem. The sukkah is possible because it's above 20. And now you build like itztava, but the itztava is the edge of the sukkah. The itztava was by the walls. So you have a kosher sukkah there. Here, it's not by the walls, it's smack in the middle of the sukkah. You build this amud. Shut up. You build this amud right in the middle of the sukkah. Is it going to be a kosher sukkah? How you do? So says the gemorah, we're on Daled Amud base, approximately 10 lines down. Actually, 8 lines down. Actually, we're only at 7 lines down. High school. Sorry, yeah. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. So, the sukkah is above 20 feet tall. It should be possible. Then you built this amud, the pillar in the middle of the sukkah, which is the pillar we're going to see is 10 tefach high. V'yesh b'echsher sukkah. And this amud is 7 by 7 tefachim. So what's it in? Sovra b'ile meima gudasik. Now we can't use here, for whatever reason, we can't use any of the other principles to kasher the sukkah. The walls are further away. You can't use the outside walls because we're talking about cases where those walls are 5 meters away, 5 amos away. So you can't do Daifin Akuma. How are you going to kasher the sukkah? The Succah is less than 20. And now the Succah was 21 feet high, and now you built a 3 amma high platform in the middle. So now your Succah is kosher. You've got no walls. Where are your walls? You need 3 walls, right? So there's a gemorah. Sava ba'alebema good asik. Abai wanted to say, you know what we can do here? We can do a good asik mechitzasa, that the walls of the platform that you built, You look at it like it's going up, and those walls become the walls of your sukkah. In other words, when you're sitting in the sukkah, you don't see the walls, right? It's below you. But standing from the outside, you see these big walls, right? So there are walls there. And Taisa says, take a look at Taisus. What's going on here? Why would Abaye think this is good? Before we said you need mechitzas and nikares. You need to see walls, right? So why would this be good? Says Taisus, Sova Abaye lemei megudasik v'chisasa. Skip to the last line. So levasayv masak bin mechitzas nikares. You do need mechitzas nikares. You need to be able to see the walls. It's not the same as when you just put Succah on top of you've got some type of floating roof, which it doesn't have any legs to it. The Pit Tikra Choshev Shapeh Mechitzas Nikares, because the Pit Tikra Choshev Mechitzas Nikares, so this is called Mechitzas Nikares for some reason. I think what he's saying is that whatever's holding up the Succah, and together with the fact that it's on top of 10 tefach wall, that's cool. There's some type of mechitz going on there. In other words, if you just have the thing floating above you, let's say you drill into your wall, big beams, and there's no walls, 4 big wooden planks, and you put your Succah across that's not mechitz and a car, it's just, there's no mechitz there. But since you've got here the wall coming up from underneath, and you've got the thing holding up the Succah, these 4 beams, that's called mechitzas and nikares. So Tais is trying to get out of the fact that why is this called mechitzas and nikares? Okay. Others want to say because from the outside you clearly see a wall over here. There's clearly a wall. It's not like okay. Let's keep going. Well, it's going to become a little bit clearer. So it says a gemorah. That's what I wanted to say. This thing we say gudasik, the walls shoot up, and it looks like you got walls over here. Okay. So that's not nicker enough. You're right. There's some type of saying it's nicker, but it's better than nothing. But you need real nicker. You're sitting in the sukkah. The Rishonim explain when you sit in your sukkah, you don't see any mechitzas. From the outside, you'll see a 10 tefach high wall, mechitza, but in the sukkah, you don't see a mechitza, and that's l'chai what Rav's kasha is. According to the Ritva, you need to see the mechitzas from inside the sukkah, not just from outside the sukkah. That's the kasha. Veleka, and that you don't see mechitzas inside, so therefore it's not good. We're going to see it's a big machlekes to be paskin like this or not. Can you use gudasik or not? Torah banan. We're going to try and establish the Torah banan. There's a brisa. No, it's arba kudesim. So you're stuck in 4 beams. The Succah Gabon, and you put your Succah on top of it. All right, that's the case. You put 4 beams down in the 4 corners of your Succah. I don't know how else it would work. Put 1, 2, 3, 4, and you put Succah on top of it. It's like a classic canopy, a classic what they call these things.
Pergola.
Yeah, classic pergola. You put your 4 beams down. You put your Succah on top. So. Reb Yaakov machshir v'chacham paisim. Reb Yaakov says it's good, kosher, and chacham say pasal. What's going on here? What's this machlekes Reb Yaakov? This is a Tana, it's a brisa, and the chachamim. What's going on here? What's the machlekes between Reb Yaakov and chachamim? So says Rav Huna, machlekes asvasagar. This machlekes of Yaakov and chachamim is talking about where it's on the rooftop. It's talking about on a roof. The Rav Yaakov says, in other words, these 4 beams are not 4 beams in the middle of your field. They're 4 beams on the corner of your building. You've got a square building, and you continue the corners, the pillars, you keep them going up.
The roof of the building.
On the roof, yeah. The roof, the 4 beams go up onto the roof, and then you put Succah there. And the question is, Rav Yaakov says, you say, Gudasik. We look at it like it's going up, but Yaakov would never say in the middle of a field, he put 4 beams down, it's kosher. That not, right? But here we're talking about this machlekes is arba kundesin is talking about you continued your structural pillars. You kept them going up another 2 feet, and then you put schach on top. Okay, so Rav Huna, Amar Rav Huna machlekes asfas agag. This machlekes is the same machlekes as before. The Rak of Sova min Gudasik v'chitzasa, and you say according to Yaakov you say Gudasik v'chitzasa. V'Rabbanan Savri leimin Gudasik v'chitzasa, and according to Rabbanan you can't take Gudasik v'chitzasa. That's the machlekes. This thing that Abaye said, right? That we say Gudasik v'chitzasa. According to Rav Huna, that's a machlekes in the Mishnah. It's a machlekes of Yaakov v'Chacham. Do you say Gudasik? Aval, says Rav Huna, be'emtza agag, if you put your pillars in the middle of the roof, or in the middle of a field, for example, nothing to talk about. Of course, it's possible. You can't say Gudasik. Gudasik is when you're seeing the outside wall of your building carrying on, going up, right? Aval be'emtza agag, Divrei kol apostle. According to Rabbi Yaakov and according to Chachamim, it's going to be, they ain't kosher. Now, the only reason to machshir this is because of Gudasik. Rav Nachman is going to argue on Rav Huna. Rav Nachman says, no. Machleke, be'emtza agag machlekes. The machlekes of Yaakov and Chachamim is in the middle of the roof. And obviously it's got nothing to do with Gudasik. Because there is no Gudasik in the middle of the roof. There's no walls coming up in the middle of the roof. Walls coming up is only when the edge of the building, the middle of the building, we're talking about a building that's more than 4 arms away. So what's the machlekes in the middle of the roof? Be'emtza agag machlekes. And what's the machlekes in the middle of Rabbanan Chachamim? Whether the 4 pillars create a wall. Without Gudasik. Gudasik can't work in the middle of the roof. But Rav Yaakov, according to Rav Nachman, holds that once you've got 4 pillars, each one is considered a wall. That's a wall. It's a tefach wall. You've got 4 tefachim on each side. That's enough to call a wall. Not no Gudasik. Yeah, you've got 4 pillars. Once you've got a tefach all the way down, it's a wall. We're gonna elaborate in a minute on this opinion. So the Gemara says, "Ibailu be'emtza agag machlekes aval al svas agag divrei kol kshera." So they asked, according to Rav Nachman, is the machlekes only in the middle of the roof, but at the edge of the roof, divrei kol kshera? Everyone agrees that it's kosher. If the kundesim, if the pillars would be the edge, everyone would say it's kosher. Why? Because Rabbanan of Yaakov, everyone holds a Gudasik. No one doesn't hold a Gudasik. What's the machlekes according to Rav Nachman? In the middle of the roof. There's no Gudasik in the middle of the roof. But at the edge of the roof, everyone, Rabbanan of Yaakov, everyone agrees Gudasik, it's good, it's kosher, nothing to worry about. We say Gudasik. Dilma, Benzu machlekes. The machlekes is at the edge of the roof and in the middle of the roof. And therefore it's a machlekes by 2 things, turns out, between Rabbi Yaakov and Chachamim. We don't like to do this. We don't like to say they're arguing 2 things, but here it's a machlekes. And the Gemara says, take it. We don't know. Sophic. So the shaila is, why would they argue in both cases? It turns out they're arguing in 2 dinim. First din is, do the 4 pillars, the 4 amudim, is that considered a wall? Not do Gudasik. You take 4 pillars, you put it down in the middle of a field, is that enough considered a wall? If it's a tefach by tefach, we're going to see the pillars have to be a tefach by tefach. You put 4 amudim down, 4 walls, that's great. 3 walls, you don't need 4. That's one machlekes. The second machlekes is, do you say Gudasik or not? At the edge of the building, you say Gudasik or not? We don't know. Gemara says Teku, we don't know. Therefore, the Rosh says, Halach l'maisa, it's a sofek, if we say Gudasik or not. So you can't do Gudasik. The Rambam says, we do say Gudasik. So, at the edge of the building, big machlekes, how could the Rambam, the Raivad also, how could the Rambam paskin that you say Gudasik? The Gemara says Teku, we don't know. Teku, we don't know what the machlekes is. So there's a lot of Torah written about how the Rambam could say over here, Gudasik, I don't have the ideas to get into it right now. Okay. And we'll sit on it forever, basically. So, but that's a big kasha. The Rambam says, you say Gadasik, very enough kamina, everyone's got a porch, you build a sukkah on your merpeset, and can you use the wall coming up as, let's say you've got bars or you've got some type of bars, but it's not enough it's not 10 tefachim high, for whatever reason, it should be 10 tefachim high. But can you use the outside of your building as your sukkah walls? Do I have to go ahead and close off my sukkah walls? Or is it all good, right? Do we say Gadasik? Says the gemorah. Meisivei. We're still trying to get into the din over here, understand this machlekes of Gadasik or not. Meisivei, Rav Yaakov and Chacham. Meisivei. Not daled kundesim baretz. You stuck 4 kundesim, 4 pegs, 4 beams into the ground, right? No roofs involved. You went to your garden, you put 4 things down, 4 beams. V'sichach al gaba, and you put on top of it schach. Rav Yaakov machshir. Rav Yaakov says it's good. Chaim paislim. Chaim says not good. So the Gemara is trying to learn from here. V'ha l'chayra eretz kebs agagdami. Ground, doing it in the middle of the ground, middle of your garden. That's like, yes, ground is like the middle of your roof, right? There's no difference between doing it in the middle of your roof or doing it in your garden. It's the same thing. There's no good asik either way. But Eretz the Chevz Agagdami, v'chamachshir Rav Yaakov. Rav Yaakov says it's good. So you see from here, what do you see from here? That Rav Yaakov doesn't need good asik to say it's kosher. Rav Yaakov is working with a different mechanism. We've got a Mefurish Brisa that Rav Yaakov says you put your 4 beams down in the middle of the garden, it's kosher. Nothing to do with good asik. So Kasha Rav Huna said he's working with good asik, right? If you remember, Rav Huna said Machlekes Asvas Agag. Rav Huna says the Machlekes is only on the border. In other words, it's a Machlekes in good asik. According to this, according to this brisa, Rav Yaakov is clear. He doesn't need good asik. So says Gemara.
Is that just under the? Is that only under the assumption that a kundasin is smaller
Than what?
Than a tefach?
Than a tefach. L'chayra, he's talking about where the kundasin is a tefach. Otherwise, even Rav Yaakov says it's not good. Rav Yaakov says you need a tefach for the kundus to work.
Okay.
We're gonna see in a minute. The Bryce is going to spell out very clearly there's got to be a tefach. Okay, so we got to hear a kasha on Rav Huna. Again, Rav Huna wanted to say that Rav Yaakov is discussing the machlekes of Rav Yaakov is a gudasik machlekes. But this Bryce clearly talks about you plant your 4 amudim down in the middle of a field. It's kasha, nothing to do with gudasik. It's working with 4 tefach walls. The wall is enough if it's a tefach. Tiyufta Rav Huna, Tiyufta. This is a Gemara says Tiyufta Rav Huna, bomb kasha on Rav Huna, knocks him out of the park. Tiyufta, no tips. We're done. V'ayt. And it's very rare that Gemara does. Once it does a Tiyufta, that means there's no answer. You're done. Here it throws another kasha in, and then Machayim said, "Why did you add another kasha? Once you've done a Tiyufta, right?" Because in case you're going to weasel out of the first kasha, you're going to find a way out. There's another big kasha, right? They are arguing in the middle of the roof. Now, where did it say they're arguing in the middle of the roof? Because because they're arguing in a soda. Right? They're arguing when you put your condenser down in the middle of a field. And the middle of a field is like the middle of a roof. So they're clearly arguing in the middle of the roof. So why are you telling me it's a machlekes about the edge of the roof? Sorry. So we got a kasha for on 2 things. 2 kashas of Rav Huna. Amar Rav Huna says, don't worry. Amar Rav Huna. Pligi b'emtza agag v'adin asas agag. The machlekes of Yaakov and Rav Huna is in two cases: b'emtza agag, in the middle of the roof, and also at the edge of the roof. They're arguing in both cases. So why does the Brisa specify the middle of the roof? Why are they discussing the middle of the roof? To accentuate, is that a word? To accentuate the opinion of Rav Yaakov that even in the middle of the roof it's kosher. At the edge of the roof it's for sure kosher because of good asik. But even in the middle of the roof it's kosher because of Rav Yaakov because you've got bechitzas tefach, you've got walls that are tefach wide. That's why these brises are talking about Emtza Gag to tell me the din of Rav Yaakov. But Rav Yaakov certainly is chaylik on the outside case also when it's the edge of the roof. He agrees also. So Tanur Rabbanan, we have another brisa. Not arba gedeis in ba'aretz zichar rabban. You stuck your four pegs into the ground. The sichar gaban and you put skach on top of it. Rav Yaakov Ryan Kol. Now this is where we get into your kasha over here. Ryan Kol, you look at these four beams that you stuck into the ground, you've got four nice planks of wood, four tree barks, you shove them into the ground somehow, right? So how do you look at it? Ryan Kol, if you scrape them out and you smooth it down, you got this round. Imagine you take a cross section of your tree, right? It's round basically, and you shave off and you draw a square in the circle. You make the biggest square you can in that circle, so that basically not the circumference. What's the one from side of the circle?
The diameter.
The diameter of the circle is the triangle of the square you've got inside, right? So, is that right? Basically, yeah. So basically, you shave off, here you've got a square, and you shave off the little arches around the square, and then you've got a nice square. So if that square you left inside of this tree is tefach by tefach, it's good. Why? Mishum diyumad. V'im lav, ein day mishum diyumad. If you don't have a tefach by tefach, it's not a diyumad. So what's a diyumad? So Rashi explains that diyumad is diyu amud, two amudim. So where does this come from? This is coming in Shabbos. In Shabbos, let's say you're walking in the street, and there's a well, but the well is more than 10 tefach deep. The well goes deep, right? So that's a different rishus. You can't take out of that well water because you're taking out from one rishus to another rishus. You're not allowed to draw water from the well. So what did they do? They made 4 diyumdin around this well. They left a little area. I guess they wanted people to be able to drink. And 4 beams basically. Now it wasn't a pillar, it wasn't a piece of wood. I guess they don't want to take up too much Rosh Hashanah because in Shabbos, as opposed to here, it has to be an amma by an amma. Taisa says because the chumas of Shabbos is going to be an amma by an amma. So basically they build one wall this way and one wall this way, each one an amma. So you'd have 4 L-shaped walls, one here, 2 and 2. Each one's 2 walls, diyumud, 2 walls, and that creates this rishus. And now you've got an amma in each direction, right? So this, a tefach for Sukkah is like a diyumud on Shabbos. Take a look at Tais, diyumud Sukkah. The second last Tais is what have been in amma gabe pased birais, the wells. Why do you need an amma? Here you need a tefach. For Shabbos, they're more machmer for carrying. It has to look like more of a wall. Hey, for Sukkah, we're trying to be kind of mitzvah Sukkah. We're more meko. You don't need the whole amma. Tefach is good, right? So it says a gemorah. Shayar Reb Yaakov, says Reb Yaakov, diyumad Sukkah tefach. To have a diyumad, this double wall in Sukkah is a tefach. V'cham machi shtayim kilchsam v'shishis afilu tefach. V'kulta chachamim, this is how we paskin. You need to have 2 full walls, and the third wall could be a tefach. But you need to have 2 good full walls, and the shlishis, the third wall could be 1 tefach. So when you shave out this wooden tree, and you're left with a square, even though it's not L-shaped, it's a square, but that's fine. You've still got a tefach in each direction, And that counts as a,
Good.
that counts as a what's called, that counts as a wall. I don't have a watch, what's the time?
9 o'clock.
Okay, so let's just see. Okay, we won't go any further, we'll end over here. All right, we'll end over here at 9 o'clock. Have a wonderful day.